Tom Verlaine, Words from the Front, right now on States and Kingdoms. Welcome back to States and Kingdoms. Today we're talking about Tom Verlaine's album, Words from the Front, from 1982.
This is the with the third person in a rather short amount of time. That's pretty important
that is passed.
to both of us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've not talked about television or Tom Verlaine so far. So I wanted to do just, didn't know them personally. I didn't know him personally, so talk about the thing that he actually connects us, which is
the music.
So, that's all. I hadn't heard any of his solo albums and when we got this. And I was really pleased. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Putting it on, I mean, you know who it is. And I don't just mean with, his singing either. It sounds like, it sounds like television.
All-encompassing style. His playing, the songwriting, the lyrics, his, singing a chorus, everything.
Television knocked me out when I heard it. And I think before I even listened to, like, the Velvet Underground or thing, I think I got Marquee Moon. Mm-hmm. At the time, everything was, I listened to a ton of Deftones, and there was Korn and Pantera and all those bands. Then I also listened to the Beatles and mm-hmm. Jimi Hendrix and Cream and whatever.
Yeah.
And just Marquee Moon was just it was a different approach to guitar, specifically to guitar.
Right.
The brilliance of Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd, on that album. The qualities that how they showed what guitar was capable of, even more than people had thought. In 1977, mm-hmm. You'd had all of these incredible guitar players that were still in their prime, and yet they showed that the guitar could also have a grace and a serenity and a power that was really quite unique. And Tom Verlaine's guitar playing is amazing. I really love his guitar playing. And on this album, whether it's rhythm guitar or lead guitar, and there's not an enormous amount of lead, the different textures he gets from the guitars, and and he always has just the best clean sound. Everyone knows Eric Clapton's Woman tone, and there are definitely some guitar players, very famous ones, that have a very vocal quality. Dave Gilmour definitely does.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Verlaine is different, though. And, of course, he's not bluesy. His vocal quality is almost like operatic at times. And yet,
yeah, that makes sense.
That doesn't cover it. It's just really
it's one of his...
unique. So on this, the first song is very repetitive. I think it's very interesting, and I've seen some people, say, not like, love this song, but when a song is that repetitive, there's got to be a reason for it,
right.
and it doesn't bother me at all. I like this song, and I like it lyrically, and Tom Verlaine's lyrics, I really do think there are more. It's more than just him, but he's one of those songwriters, singers that I really think you should listen to the words.
You're missing.
So, I remember. I think I remember. I don't know, a few years ago, whenever it was, Richard Hell talking about how a lot of song lyrics don't really stand up as poetry when you read them, which is true. But he was saying how I forget which Bob Dylan song it was did, and he was and how interesting that was, whatever. And I think Tom Verlaine's lyrics absolutely do stand up as written poetry, and that goes for this album as well. There's just the kind of leaps of logic and concentrated image and everything that he puts into his lyrics are just fascinating and wonderful. And it's funny to talk about Bob Dylan. We've talked about people that were influenced by Bob Dylan, and what they did with it. Like Donald Fagen. Mm-hmm. We think, how he...
Or Dave Gilmour.
Dave Gilmour singing, and Tom Verlaine is is really interesting too. It's like the singers that followed Bing Crosby and what they took from Bing Crosby, whether it's Frank Sinatra or Perry Como or.
Yeah. Some of these songs are very spacey and open.
They are, yeah.
And you said textures, so the lyrics almost, the descriptions and the qualities in lyrics almost like add another layer. Like they're like another texture in there.
Leaving that amount of space and, just for like one, one
there's
plucked
like,
string or
so
something.
It's like,
and
there's like actual punctuation in the music.
Honestly, I like all the songs on this album. Postcard from Waterloo.
It's a really nice ballad.
This is why I was saying, I do think you really do have to pay attention to what he's saying.
Yeah, you gotta dig in.
It's not, the lyrics are not an add-on. I just think as a total package, some great songs here.
And you can't really listen to it in passing. You really have to give it your full attention.
Yeah, I wouldn't. This isn't really a put on in the background kind of a record.
You kind of have to really want it, and really pay attention.
And True Story is great. Obviously, Words from the Front it's got such a serenity to it. This bed of guitars that that he sings over, and yet the actual subject matter is anything but serene. And the crescendo, in the middle I just think it's so perfectly done. He always comes at you from a different angle than most songwriters would, just really, really interesting. From being a very good writer, an incredible guitar player, songwriter. I don't know, it's just, that song is very, very interesting and beautiful. And his guitar, the guitar break in the middle, is definitely worth hearing multiple times. Really great.
Worth the price of the record.
I also love Coming Apart. Some of the songs, really, Clear It Away, Coming Apart, they do this, leave such space. There's such, just the like you said, we're saying textures, but also touch, that allows the guitar to breathe. Everything, and for the voice to come through. I don't know, maybe I'm deranged, but I think this album is brilliant and, really.
It's atmospheric and, moody in its own way. A lot of the sounds, I just feel like, Tom Verlaine was obviously influential in a big way.
Yeah.
For, I feel like the entire sound of the early to mid 80s.
Well, he certainly, yeah.
Because you listen to, if you want to call them new wave bands or a lot of the British bands that,
Pretenders.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying.
No.
But a lot of those bands, this is the sound, and maybe they made it a little bit dancier, or they add a little something to make it a little more poppy. But it's basically
have the substance.
Well.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just adding.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to take away from the Pretenders. Pretenders are great, but
Don't apologize.
Don't apologize.
Sorry,
everybody. I think his solo albums are. I have thought his solo albums are terribly underrated. I don't think he ever did anything as great as Marquee Moon, but yet there are moments that I think are even more beautiful than the ones on Marquee Moon. That
later.
He was always capable of something stunning. And anyway, Days on the Mountain is, as a long song, fascinating, really.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
And like we said at the beginning, I can't imagine anyone else making this music. And I would love, you'd always love someone to say that about you, I suppose. I just cannot imagine anyone but Tom Verlaine doing, this album or anything else he did. These albums should have had, wider appeal. Of course, television should have as well. I'll never really understand that. I really don't feel that this is an acquired taste, really.
No, maybe it takes a little bit more work than than some
I mean,
things,
the music
but
is very engaging and
Yeah.
fun, and I don't know.
no, it's
But
not.
yeah,
It's not hard.
I mean, I would certainly recommend, if anyone has listened to television, the 3 records are fantastic, and pick up whatever you can find of Tom Verlaine solo stuff. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Everything you just said.
Sure.
I agree. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments what you think of Tom Verlaine and Words from the Front. Make sure to like this video and please subscribe to States and Kingdoms. We've got more videos coming at you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will see you next time.